From the William B. Travis Building in Austin, Texas, we're keeping Texas energy on track. Here's your host, Bryce Doobie.
Welcome to Texas Energy on Track, the official podcast of the Railroad Commission of Texas. I am your host, Bryce Doobie, and as always, I am joined by our co-host and producer, Nick. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing pretty good. You know, we're just cruising along. I can't believe we've had so many of these episodes so far. I think we're like almost near 20 or something. It's been almost a year that we've been doing this. That's crazy.
It really is. I've learned so much. I think that we said even the very first episode, and I know I've said it a few times since then. Every one of these is so interesting to me because I'm new to this industry and this field, and being able to talk to folks who've been doing the work for years and who know this stuff and learn from them has really been beneficial for me, both professionally and then just educational, because it's just neat to learn all these things.
Yeah, and it's good to hear feedback. People are like, oh, I learned so much on the podcast. I'm like, I do too, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know.
And I think one thing for folks out there who do listen, I would encourage, reach out to us if you ever, when we post on social media and you see we have an episode up, if there's a topic you'd like to hear us talk about in the future. I know we're always looking for more ideas. We're not running out of ideas by any means, but like if there are some things that folks would be interested in hearing a little bit more about, like, hey, what goes on when we're talking about, like if you've heard like, hey, I've heard about this petroleum theft and stop theft. I'd love to know more about that. Something like that. Just drop us a comment on social and let us know, and we will see who the expert is and who we can talk to. And speaking of experts, we have a wonderful guest joining us today. So much, I reach out to him all the time with questions on things because he has, I would say, probably one of the busiest jobs here at the Railroad Commission. We're joined today by David Lindley, who is the Assistant Director of Field Operations for the Oil and Gas Division. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, so I know what you do just because we've worked together now for a little while, but tell us a little about yourself, how long you've been at the commission, and then what you did before coming to the RC.
Absolutely. I've only been with the Railroad Commission 22 months. May 13th, I think, will be 2 years. Prior to that, it was petroleum engineering background. Went to work for Conoco upon graduation from Montana Tech and was in Midland for probably about 6 years. Moved on from that. Most of my career was spent with a company called Southwestern Energy. Worked for a few different operators between then. I think I got out of engineering and more into operations management around 2010, 2011. And so that was all operations, drilling, completions, workovers, plugging, and production. This opportunity came up, and it's been a great fit for me. I hope also for the Railroad Commission, but definitely challenging, and it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, really with that background in industry, I think one thing, talking to folks with the field operation side of things, what goes on in field ops?
Field ops, to me in the industry, is, like I said, drilling, completions, workovers. It's all the actual equipment, the production, and from conception of a well to abandonment of a well with the plugging. It's a little bit different with the Railroad Commission. My job specifically with field ops is threefold. We're over compliance and enforcement, state managed plugging, and site remediation. We don't drill, but we certainly use a lot of rigs to plug wells. We're trying to ramp up manpower and equipment.
Yeah, because I know what's one thing we've talked about previously, the legislature this past session invested a lot of money into plugging here in the state to really go after some of these orphan wells and some of these other things, which we've talked about a little bit before, but I think that's a whole other episode we could get even more into in the future at some point. But there's a lot of resources and a lot of work being done on that plugging front right now.
Absolutely. Just briefly say that instead of just the OGRC plugging budget, which is annual, we also have IIJA funds from the Department of the Interior. The legislature made that $100 million for supplemental funds available. It has a 2-year life, but June will be the first year up, and we're doing fairly well with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's something that's definitely a priority. We've heard from our commissioners talking about, we know this is something, obviously, until priority for the legislature, so making a lot of really good inroads into getting that work done. When we're talking, you said for the other two areas of field operations that you said there, I know compliance is a big one. What does sort of that look like? When we're talking compliance, what do you mean by that?
Field operations is made up of 3 regions, Northwest and South region, but that's 10 districts within those 3 regions. So we have 10 district offices, 10 district directors, and full teams. Statewide, we have about 185 inspectors. So that is the compliance and enforcement. We consider them the eyes and ears of the commission. And what they do is the actual inspections. They check for compliance in the field. They'll go out and do routine inspections, but they also witness tests. We have requirements on casing jobs where they go out to witness cement jobs. We're out there for every plugging job that's state run. We witness MITs, mechanical integrity tests, and sometimes if we have time, we get out on fluid level tests and whatnot. But one thing we do is actively investigate complaints as well. With 185 inspectors, I think there's 435,000 oil and gas wells in Texas. So that's about 2,400 inspections per year for each inspector. They're putting in some miles and some hours for sure. In fact, we performed 460,000 inspections FY25.
That's a lot of inspections. You were saying with like the mechanical integrity tests, what are these sort of things that they're out there looking for? If I'm a landowner and hey, we're going to have an inspector come out and look at the well, what are you looking for when you're doing these when you're seeing observing tests or when you're going out and checking for things?
So the mechanical integrity tests and the fluid level tests are to ensure that we're protecting our groundwater. So if these are to test if the casing in the well has any leaks. Some of these are annual tests. Some of them are 3 to 5 years, depending on the field. But that's our way to make sure that we're not contaminating groundwater. Also, the inspectors will go out and they'll look for leaks. That's a big deal, obviously, and compliance on all of the statewide rules that we have.
Because again, I mean, all of these pieces are really, like you said, statewide rules. It's all spelled out, like what right should look like, as far as like here, if someone's going to be putting in a well, someone's going to be running an operation there. There's things in place, no more than this and X amount of this, and it should be this.
It's definitely regulated. It seems annually, or I guess biannually, with the legislature being every 2 years, there's always new rules coming around. And some of the things that were dealt with this last legislature were the wildfire rules. We implemented 21L, and that increased our ability to inspect electrical to try to mitigate some of the wildfire damage that was up, I guess, in North Region.
That was something I didn't even really think about at the time when it was mentioned, was the fact that it's like, oh yeah, these wells and all this work being done, obviously there's power running to them. I don't know why, but that never even crossed my mind that, yeah, there would be an electrical source for something. So it's interesting. Legislature took action.
Yes, and we've gone a little further with the utilizing the PUC, the Public Utility Commission, to help us to shut off an operator that may have a dangerous situation. We don't want to just call them and report a violation. We need to get that power shut off. So the PUC has actually, I've reached out to them, and they've been very responsive, and we've been able to cut electric service until the operator was prepared to repair.
Because a lot of this too really is about bringing folks back into compliance if there is an issue, and that's what these folks are really looking for. Like, hey, this is something we need to adjust. Return to compliance, keep operations going.
That's exactly right. We're definitely interested in keeping oil and gas production producing as well as we can, for sure.
For both my knowledge and I guess for listeners as well, the other piece of that, if there is something and I'm an inspector and I'm lookout and I see something, I'm like, that's not right, then there is pieces, and I know we'll probably do a later episode talking to folks on the enforcement side of that as well. So there's compliance, but then, hey, this needs to be corrected, or we're going to start looking into some other actions.
Absolutely. So that brings up the enforcement process from the district level. And so when a violation is noticed, it could be a 3-day, 10-day, or a 30-day notice to repair. 3-day would be specifically for the 21L violation, which is the electric issue. We cut that to 3 days. And like I said, if it's imminent danger, we'll get it shut off that day. It starts with a notice of violation. It'll go to a notice of intent, and that's an intent to sever their lease. So if they don't take care of it in the time frame, then it would be referred to Austin. And that's when legal enforcement would take over for penalty action.
But again, your inspectors really are those eyes and ears on the ground, knowing what to look for. And they go, there's training they get into for all of that.
Oh, absolutely. Danny Sorrells and Way, when they got here, they realized the need for inspector training, consistency among the districts, consistency with the statewide rules. They implemented the boots on the ground training. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've been here 22 months, and I've been to 2 different boots on the ground. I went to the basic 5-day course where we go over relevant statewide rules. There's a test at the end. So everybody is required to pass this. And then I did a refresher. And that was a 3-day course, and I was woefully behind on my statewide rule knowledge, but got up to speed fairly quickly. I did want to mention also that in addition, a new inspector will spend time with an experienced inspector when they get out on location. So they'll ride with them, learn how to use our ICE program, learn what to look for. So it's ongoing.
Okay, because that would make. I mean, you don't just show up and be like, "Hey, here's your pickup truck. Go look at wells." It's definitely kind of learning through all that. I know I've seen a lot of things with that boots in the ground. And one of the things I just kind of want to key on that you said there was with that consistency. Why is that? I mean, coming especially from industry, why is consistency important?
Because it's not the same operators in every district. They could, if a district enforces a rule differently, it's problematic for the operator. We need to make sure we're inspecting the same, accepting applications and forms the same, and we've had some differences. I've noticed that we work on this monthly now. District director and assistant director meetings. I don't know if you remember when Commissioner Christian did his DOJ meetings. Mm-hmm. I was in 4 of those with industry. And the consistent comment that I got out of that was inconsistency with the way you had to submit forms and with some of the rules. So that is something that we address continually.
I know, speaking of landowners and communities and things, one thing that always comes up is groundwater protection and things. I know there's a big piece with the compliance and all of that. From that field operations side of things, how do you really balance environmental protection with the realities of Texas being the beating heart of energy production in the United States? I mean, there is definitely a challenge to all of that, I'm sure.
Outreach is critical. We're obviously a public state agency, so any information we have is readily shareable. We welcome phone calls, questions, emails. We respond quickly. The outreach, I've noticed, I think your group is really helped us with that. And that is the listening session that we do every other month. Industry calls that Commissioner Wright had. And there's certain groups out there that will call and, hey, can we set up a meeting? We want to talk about Senate bill, whatever. And we're happy to meet with folks.
Because that's one of those things, I mean, for the general public out there listening and there's a well on their property or something like that, if they see something, I mean, this is not to steal the phrase from somewhere else, if you see something, say something type thing, reach out to your district office. I'm like, hey, I think there's a leak on this. I mean, an inspector will come out and take a look.
That's the fastest response, is to reach out to the district and not Austin, truthfully. Because it's going to get to the district anyway. That's where the inspectors are. So that would be my advice, is reach out to the district as soon as you can.
Because they're the ones, like you said, they're the most responsive. They'll answer the call. They'll be able to dispatch someone and take a look at it.
And when you're talking about field operations, I'm sure it's complicated. Texas is a big state. It's not, it's not like it's Delaware or something. So there's a lot of ground to cover. Can you just talk about the importance of the field offices we have across the state in just helping with your work with everything the field operations does?
Right. So, Nick, we have the 10 district offices that are, I'll say, strategically located around the state. I don't have the exact number of counties or even the average of counties per region, but within the district, we try to get inspectors that live in those areas. They're not driving 3 counties away every day. So that's also a little problematic. But Texas is big, but I think we have a very responsive field ops team that gets out, completes the inspections timely and effectively.
And you mentioned they live in the area. I mean, that has to mean something. If somebody calls in and says there's something going on in this area, somebody from Austin or Dallas or San Antonio, they may not know that, but if somebody lives out there, they're like, oh yeah, I know where it is. I know how to get there. I know the best way to react to that.
Yeah, responsiveness and availability is huge.
I mean, and also I would imagine too, just even a sense of community. Like if you've been living in that region, I mean, these are your neighbors. This is the same type of thing. You're invested in making sure that you're keeping stuff protected.
Absolutely, and I think we all love Texas, and we care. Somebody in Pampa probably cares about the groundwater just as much in Corpus Christi.
What are some of the? I mean, just from you've talked a little bit about efficiency and things like that. What are some of the tools or technologies that y'all use that really have had a big impact on how this job has progressed over time? Because I know we've talked with Central Records before. I mean, a lot of stuff used to be just kind of pen and paper. It's really streamlined over time.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because when I first got here and I heard about mainframe, I was like, I think that's like 1970s technology. And that's being phased out, but it's a massive process because of all the data and all the utilization for many divisions with mainframe. So they're moving to Lone Star, but that's quite the process. Field ops, I think we've got H9s, and I'm not sure what else, but so far has been implemented. But we update our ICE inspection, compliance, and enforcement software continually. I think we're on at least 4 updates just in my 22 months. So we add rules, we improve on rules as far as making sure that every rule is can be reported by the inspector. We updated our system on back checks because once there is a violation, notice of intent, we schedule a back check. That system is critical to our districts. And as far as software, we have the OFCU, Oilfield Cleanup software, which I find clunky, not as clunky as mainframe, of course, but I definitely have to get better with speediness on looking up data. So that's probably on me, but those are the 3 softwares I use continually every day.
I will say I'm always impressed whenever I reach out to any of our folks I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I have like media queries, and there's always like, here, let me share my screen quick, and you guys just dive into some sort of computer system and like, yeah, I'll put up, here's this, here's the API for that, and it's like, oh, okay, you have all this information here, and you say slow, but to me, it's like, okay, that you guys know these things better than I definitely do.
Well, let me be honest. That's my team for sure. I have a fantastic team. I work with what I consider the greatest people I've ever worked with, and they are savvy and they are quick. So if I need something like right away, an upstairs request, a landowner request, I may have to go to somebody else.
And one thing you did mention too that I want to kind of be sure to point out too is you talked about cleanup. What sort of field operations role with cleanup, and how does that work? Because I know there's well plugging, compliance enforcement. What's the cleanup piece?
The cleanup, it would be the surface facilities that are left. That would be separators, oil tanks, stock tanks, and water tanks that would be left on location. Those have to be cleaned out, steam cleaned for hydrocarbons, and removed. That's like you mentioned, the third part of field operations.
So when we're really talking on the field operations side, I mean, really thinking from like that bigger lifespan of a well. So y'all are there. That well, I mean, it's really kind of sort of day one from birth to death, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, from the well goes in, you guys are running the test to make sure and observing when it's first being performed, and then checking during its operation, during its lifespan, and then once it reaches the end of operation, when it's being plugged and all those pieces like the tanks and things are being taken off, making sure that that's all being done as well. So there are wells out there that that were drilled 30 years ago. I don't even know how old y'all are still keeping tabs on and inspecting on a regular basis, in addition to ones that went in last week. Absolutely. But as far as being on the ground and all, I mean, there's just so much. I'm always impressed with what y'all are doing out there. It really is like this. It's a, like we said, it's a big state. It's a big job. So,
well, I don't know if I mentioned, I think we have around 380 employees in field operations, and that's going to increase a little bit because we're going to add plugging inspectors as rig availability increases. Right now, we're using about everybody that we're contracted to use. So a new solicitation went out, and we're reviewing best and final offers right now. So it's an ongoing process.
So 22 months, looking back at that, so far, what's really been sort of some of the big accomplishments that you're most proud of?
I think the biggest accomplishment is the end of FY25, we didn't have much of a plugging budget, and we laid down a lot of rigs. Unfortunately, that was hard for the plugging companies that we had contracted. We had to send them to the house because we had those incidents that burned up our OGRC funds on just several wells. So we went from a very low number of rigs to the 50 that we're at today. It was actually more time consuming than I even thought it would be, but now comes the tracking of all that activity. My other thing is to improve efficiency of every task that field ops has. Part of that was, the consistency. I feel that is part of that, as well as, more efficient with the plugging, more efficient with rig movement and activities associated with it.
Because I know that's something we've talked about before when we talked with pluggers and things, and it's one of those things they said, hey, if we're out at a site and we know this is one that has to get plugged right now, but we know there's maybe 2 more offering wells in this same lead, let's just take care of that while we're here, improve that so we don't have to go back and forth and then move it somewhere else, and some of those little things, and really kind of accomplish what we can where we can.
Right. We can often be in the middle of a plugging package with a rig or 2, have a priority 1 well, which is a leaking well, that we have to respond to right away, and we have to shut down operations with the nearest rig and move them over. It's a good relationship with the plugging contractor, with the district offices, and with Austin itself to be not just efficient, but timely.
And speaking of timely, thank you so much for your time. I know you have such a busy job, so I'm going to let you get back to it, but we really appreciated you coming on to talk to us about some of what you do, because again, you field operations and everything in oil and gas business is just a monstrous organization, and how much work you guys handle. So thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure, Bryce, Nick. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
We'll bring you back at some point. So Nick, you said we're approaching episode 20, give or take. I'm not sure based on where we are on our calendar. That sounds about right. If I wanted to go back and listen to episodes 1 through where we are right now, where would I do that?
See, carry the 1 divided by, we're getting close to number 20. I'm not the best at math, but yes, we're getting there. All you have to do is find your favorite podcast app, probably where you're listening right now. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're on Audible, Amazon Music, we're on Alexa. We are out there on iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. YouTube. So any of your favorite podcast apps, we are there. Make sure you subscribe, because that will get you the notifications of when we put out the new episodes every other Wednesday. You'll get it on your phone. You may even forget, and if you forget over several weeks, you actually get some, this has happened to me before, you get notifications that pile up, or it says like, hey, there's 3 episodes of Texas Energy on Track ready to go. Oh, yeah. So you get 3 that you can listen to. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can get those notifications when we put out any of our new episodes. We also post clips and things on social media, where you can find us on X. We are at TXRRC. We're Railroad Commission of Texas on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram, Railroad Commission of Texas. And then we have informative videos and a whole bunch of other things on our YouTube page, which you can search Railroad Commission of Texas as well. So we make it easy for you. We put the info out there. All you got to do is look, and it's, like I said, pretty easy.
And as far as some of the resources that we mentioned, and talking with David today and things like that, there is so much information on our website, whether you're looking for information from a landowner perspective, from an operator perspective, if you're trying to find permits, if you're trying to, there are so many different databases and resources, and it is all at rrc.texas.gov. As always, thank you so much for joining us. This has been another episode of Texas Energy on Track, the official podcast of the Railroad Commission of Texas, and we will talk to y'all soon.